Hello again, and welcome to this fourth and last part of our presentation on ideology, where we'll be trying to answer the question, what is the concept of ideology good for? How can you use it in your research and in the analysis that you're doing in political sociology? I am going to make some limited claims and suggestions about how to apply the idea and ways in which you might want to use concepts of ideology. And I will do this in the form of two propositions. The first proposition derives from the theorist and philosopher Louis Althusser, who argues that the basic function of society, Althusser was a follower of Marx, so he called it the reproduction of the relations of production, which is a bit of a mouthful. What he argues is this, is that the physical requirements for division of labor have to be present in order for a capitalist society to function, but so do the intellectual and spiritual requirements. And the most important of those requirements is that people have to accept that the role that they take on in the society, what is assigned to them, is inevitable, is normal. And these are tasks that are fulfilled by what Althusser calls the ideological state apparatuses. He identifies two types of apparatuses in the state, the ideological apparatuses and the repressive apparatuses. Now, this is a little bit of a misleading piece of terminology. Don't be fooled by the word state, because we can talk about apparatuses operating in conjunction with any form of institution, but the basic idea here, the famous sentence from Althusser is, ideology interpolates individuals as subjects. If, like most people, you have never heard the word interpolate, it's used in parliamentary debates sometimes. What it literally means, at least according to the dictionary, is to call or to hail. So if you're in the street and you want to get a ride, you would interpolate a taxi, I suppose. So what ideology does then is it invites individuals to take part in the ideological system and to play their role by telling them who they are and what their place in the society is. And this is a constant function without which the social order would not be able to operate. So that's one proposition, is that ideology is a mechanism that is in many ways central to the ongoing function of a stable society that is justified by ideology and that depends on it in order to continue functioning. The second proposition is one that is related to the concept of meta-ideology that I talked about a little bit before. And this is something that's referred to, you may have come across this in discussions of day-to-day politics in media and so on. This is referred to by the term the Overton window, after Overton, who built the window. And let me show you a picture of the Overton window. There's the Overton window. What the Overton window is, it describes the range. It's contained in that rectangle, which looks a little bit like a window, of the set of ideas that are acceptable and admissible in political discourse, the set of ideas that are regarded as normal. And the further from the center of the window an idea is, the less acceptable it is. So that on either side, again, if we think of ideologies as operating in a continuum of left to right, which we don't have to do, but it certainly works if you're working with an image of a window, they range from, the things outside of the window range from sensible, acceptable to radical, and then finally unthinkable. Now, the reason that the Overton window idea can be useful to us is because we can see that the position of the window and the width of the window tends to shift over time. The window tends to be not so much opened and closed as expanded and contracted, or moved over from one side of the spectrum to another. And this is what, for example, movements that are regarded as extreme tend to do. If we want to take an example from British politics, you had anti-European ideas that were proposed by fringe groups on the right, ones who might have been regarded as being in the range of radical or unthinkable, like UKIP was one, for example, and these move to the center. They move into something that is either popular or exists as policy through the operation of the Brexit referendum. This is my dog Stanislav. He's come to help me lecture in this last moment, so say hello to Stanislav. We could say a similar thing about the ways in which parties like the Republican Party in the United States has shifted from being a center-right party that fundamentally pursued consensus with the other large party in American politics to one represented by what turned out to be the policies of, for a brief time, he was president of the United States, this guy named Donald Trump. And what this is a long campaign by presence in the discourse to shift the Overton window from center to right. So these are a couple of examples we can think of in which the window is opened or closed. We could probably think of even more of them from the region that most of us will be studying. And what does this add up to? And these are just a couple of suggestions. You can all easily, I think, on your own, come up with 5 or 6 more suggestions about how to use theories of ideology in your understanding of the relations between politics and society. I would suggest that there are 2 main insights that come from integrating ideas about ideology into this kind of analysis. The first is that the range of ideas that are available to people at any given time. This range of ideas will, hello Stanley, will never be infinite, but it's bounded by the conditions in which people live, and it's bounded by the social and political circumstances and by institutional structures. So we don't have to think of ideas as constituting an open or anarchic field. Ideas, like everything else in a society where power is in operation, are structured. Second, I think in some cases it is possible to understand contention over political power in a society as not just contentions between interest groups and populations, not just wars for position, but also contentions between some concepts that are really fundamental, ideological ways of understanding the world, ways of understanding the future, and ways of understanding the purpose of human life. And this is possibly even more the case as we move into some contemporary political conflicts where it seems like the basic area of the basic area of contention is over values. So these are some ways in which you can use theories of ideology that we presented in here in your research. We're going to hear some more in the presentations, and we'll have some time for discussion. I'll see you on Tuesday morning. And yes, thank you, Stanislav, for helping me with this.